Hi there and welcome to Whole Life. That's just me. This week we are in the middle of looking again in this first quarter of 2021 as to how we do our videos and things that come out week by week. And this Friday we're planning to record something for next Wednesday, Paige and I together. In the meantime, I just want to share a quick verse with you for this week, and also to say that I recorded a video last week that we're not releasing as in the normal way. But if you're interested in that, please send me an email and I'll give you a link to that. It's really about my own observations about church and where we've been, where we may be going as we come into this new season of living with COVID, and how things may be in the future. So if you're interested in that, drop me an email. If you're watching this on YouTube, then if you go to our website, kingdombreakthrough.org/contact, you'll see a contact form and you can request it there. If you're getting this via an email because you're on our email list, then just hit reply and I will send you a link. But in the meantime, I want to leave you one verse from Malachi chapter 3, verse 16. And it's a great verse. It's a verse that I remember years and years ago, my dad speaking on for 3 Sunday mornings in our church growing up in Norwich. And it's stayed with me ever since. And I've been doing some written work on the book of Malachi for another project. And I got to this verse today. It just reminded me of what's really important. It says this, and it's in the midst of the last oracle, the 6th oracle that Malachi brings to the people of Israel. This is post-exile, after the exile. And they're going back into the land, but they're still living in their own ways and pleasing themselves, not pleasing God. And he says in the middle of this last oracle that probably starts in chapter 3, verse 13, goes to chapter 4, verse 3. And he says in the middle of this, a little bit of a narrative that comes. Those that feared the Lord spoke with each other, and the Lord listened to what they said. More accurate translation, the Lord listened and heard. The Lord listened and he really took note. In his presence, a scroll of remembrance was written. And in our conversation, we can be confident that God hears us. And I think sometimes we get so caught up with, are we praying? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? And we forget that actually God is listening to us all the time. And that as we discuss things with each other, if we are prayerful in our outlook, if we are honoring to God in the way we conduct ourselves, then even then God is listening to what we are saying. And this verse is really about all those that feared God, those that gave God the respect that he was due, those that said what God says is more important than what the world says, the ones who say we're going to trust God even though everything in front of us says no, we shouldn't trust God, we should trust something else. And they spoke with each other, these folks. So they gathered together. There was a sense of like-minded people supporting one another, encouraging one another, as we are really exhorted to do in the Bible. And the Lord listened and heard. He took note. He paid close attention to what they were saying. And that God cares enough about those of us who follow him to listen carefully to what we say, to listen carefully and to take on board, if you like, but also understand our hearts. And there are times when we can't express ourselves very well. We might be talking to someone with full of ums and ahs and long pauses. And it can be like that with God's honest. God, we don't know what to say. It's just like in Romans, Paul talks about this, that the Spirit of God intercedes for us with, groans and words can't express them really when we have this heart sense before God. I mean, maybe that is to do with speaking in tongues, possibly not. But for sure, God understands the groaning of our heart, just as he understands our conversation, just as he understands our thought process, just as he understands the muddle in our minds that we don't understand. God does, and he cares for you, and he cares about the situation you're facing. He cares about all that is in front of you. He cares about the uncertainty of what's going to happen with COVID and the vaccinations and life coming into or morphing into a new way of doing things, living with a disease perhaps for years to come and not knowing how that's going to affect how things pan out. And we plan for the future story, and yet we don't really know, do we? But what we do know is that as we fear God and as we converse together, as we talk to one another, as we share fellowship together, whether it's online or face-to-face, socially distanced in an appropriate way, that we are in the presence of the Lord Almighty, who's the key player in this last oracle of Malachi 3, 13 through to 4:3, and the Lord Almighty listens and he hears and he understands our hearts. He understands the things that we don't. So whatever you're facing this week, whatever uncertainties there are, whatever challenges there are, know that the Lord listens and he hears. He takes on board, he takes note of what you're saying. He takes note of your heart condition. And he wants to bless you and encourage you and support you and to cheer you on and to say, look, I'm just going to be there for you. Just like we say to our children, I'm going to be there and encourage you. It doesn't matter when they're grown up, we're still there to support them and encourage them. And God wants to do the same for each of us. So, as we come into this season, January is now coming to an end already, almost into February, and we're going to be saying to God, what are you saying to us as we go forward into the spring and the summer of 2021? What wonderful opportunities are there that you have for us as your people? And I believe that as we open ourselves up to the Spirit of God and as we talk with one another, that the Lord will listen and hear. He will take careful note and he will be with us, whatever the future holds. So bless you for your time today, and whether you're listening to this in the audio version or you are watching the video, that God will speak to your heart and you'd be encouraged as you follow him. So be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you together next week. Bye-bye.